My name is Rowan Ellington, and I'm 42 years old. Competence doesn't audition. It hums. Off-peak dishwasher at 12:01. The budget cells closing in green. The calendar nudge labeled hard conversations on the second Tuesday so hairline cracks don't widen into sinkholes. I like ballast. No one praises ballast until the boat lists. Thursday evening posed like a magazine photo. The lamp cut a soft triangle across the rug he picked, which meant I paid, and he approved. The apartment smelled like bergamot and the last of the roasted garlic. I was closing out a monthly reconciliation when my husband, Caleb, 38, sat down on the far end of the couch like a guest in our own life, phone angled toward his chest the way you shield a secret from a breeze. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice dipped in therapy speak. The hum dulled. I clicked save. "Sure." He looked at the bookshelf, at a brass bowl that cost too much because he liked the way it photographed. He avoided my eyes like the truth was an eclipse. "I need," he exhaled, auditioning for sympathy. "Space. I feel like I'm losing myself. Everything's so planned, so safe. We're not fun anymore." The script was familiar. I let him speak. Preamble soothe speakers, not listeners. "You're a good person, Rowan, a great provider," he added, a pat on the head masquerading as praise. "But I need to feel alive again. I need to find my own path." There it was, the click. Unlabeled data points sorting themselves into a clean line. The late-night giggling text with a new contact pinned at the top. The sudden reverence for a somatic healer named Karina, who also, miraculously, was his new tennis partner. The pricey athleisure from brands I'd never heard of. The weekends that ran long because the crew wanted to decompress. He waited for me to beg, to pledge spontaneous adventures and impulsive trips and a renovated personality. "Done," I said. The word landed with the weight of a stone in still water. It was not the cue his scene required. "Done? Just like that?" A tiny panic cut through his careful tone. "You're not even going to fight for us?" "You asked for a trial separation," I said, voice level. "I'm agreeing to your terms." He blinked. The rug's soft triangle held its shape. Somewhere in another room, the HVAC shivered on. "I'll pack a bag," he said, recovering his bravado. "Crash at Ethan's." "Okay." He went upstairs. Drawers opened and closed in pert little thuds. Our life sorted into zippered cubes. For a minute, rage flared so hot I could taste metal. I wanted to catapult that brass bowl across the room, watch it dent the wall we'd painted, in a color with a name you couldn't guess from looking. Then the sadness came. The ache for the boyish 26-year-old, who had eaten cheap pizza with me on a floor that echoed because we had nothing but each other, and an ugly lamp. I let the grief wash the shore and recede. What remained was clarity, cool and surgical. This wasn't a trial. It was an exit, pre-planned, sugar-coated. I picked up my phone. The lock screen glowed back at me like a witness. My first call wasn't to a bank. It was to a family law attorney, Victoria Hale, whose name I'd filed away the same way I file every boring protective measure that later saves a life. Her assistant slotted me for 9:00 a.m. That night, I slept like a sentry in a lighthouse, upright, eyes open, scanning. At dawn, the city exhaled. I showered, tied my hair back, wore the navy blazer that makes me look like I invoice God. Victoria's office was glass and fern. She listened without interrupting, her expression a clean slate. When I finished, she folded her hands. "The moment of separation is a legal marker," she said. "From now on, your actions need to be transparent and defensible. No theatrics. Documentation is your friend." "I'm not here for revenge," I told her. "I'm here for a clean cut." "Good. Today. 1. Open a new individual checking account. Don't drain the joint one. Leave a reasonable buffer. 2. Reroute your direct deposit. 3. Notify your credit card issuer that you are legally separated. Deactivate his supplementary card. You assume the outstanding balance. 4. Update your HR portal to separated. That triggers a qualifying life event for benefits. His dependent coverage will terminate at month's end. COBRA notice will follow." "Understood." She watched me. "There's something else you're not saying." "His mentor," I said, picking the word up with 2 fingers. "Karina, tennis partner." He angles his phone away. The little tells. Victoria nodded. "If you authorize it, we can deploy a private investigator, but only after we've secured your basics. Keep your tone neutral with him. No fights over text. Everything discoverable. Everything boring. Boring is my native language. I left with a list, not a wound. Outside, the day was indecently beautiful. I walked 3 blocks and opened the new account. I left a cushion, $4,000, in the old one. I changed my HR direct deposit to the new routing number. I called the credit card company and deactivated his supplementary plastic, accepting the $7,999 balance as mine to shoulder because it shortened the cut and blunted the argument. I documented the times to the minute. When I updated my HR status to separated, the portal politely informed me that dependent coverage would end the last day of the month. It was June 15th, 2 weeks of grace. A Cobra packet would mail within 10 business days. I thought of his migraine medication, the one that ran over $600 cash price. I thought of him saying he needed to feel alive. At 6:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. Caleb. Weird. My card just got declined at ARC Athletics. Their system must be down. Can you call them? Me. No system issue. I deactivated your supplementary card. We are separated. Our finances are too. Bubbles appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again, like a heartbeat trying to choose its rhythm. Caleb, you did what? Without talking to me? Me. I told you this morning I'd begin the formal process. This is part of it. Use the debit card from the joint account for now. Silence. I pictured him checking the balance, seeing the $4,000 I'd left, enough to stave off performative panic, not enough to cosplay a shared future. Saturday at 9:03 a.m., my doorbell rang. He'd brought backup. His mother, Janice, swept into my foyer with the righteous energy of a woman who believes her son is a limited edition collectible. Caleb hovered behind her, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Rowan, what is the meaning of this? Janice demanded, as if I'd canceled Christmas. You humiliated him. His card. At a store. In public. I'm establishing financial boundaries, I said. Standard procedure in a legal separation. This isn't a business merger, Caleb snapped. This is my life. You're punishing me for wanting more than this boring, predictable... I'm giving you exactly what you asked for, I said, voice flat. A different life. Your own path. I'm just removing the cushion you assumed would always be there while you find yourself. The boring life you despise also paid for everything. The foyer held its breath. I turned to him. And you should know, I updated HR. Your eligibility under my health, dental, and vision plan terminates at the end of this month. You'll receive a Cobra packet explaining how to continue coverage at your expense. Color drained from his face. Janice faltered. What does that even mean? Caleb swallowed. My prescription, he said, the word small. It's over $600 without coverage. That's correct, I said. Cobra premiums for the full plan run around $900 a month. Janice gasped, clutching her pearls like an understudy. You can't do that to him. He's a 38-year-old adult who asked to separate from the woman who provided his insurance, I replied. Consequences aren't cruelty, Janice. They're context. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the shape of my face. The rock he believed would tether his boat forever had calcified into a coastline. I'm calling a lawyer, he said, tears of rage glossing his eyes. I would expect nothing less, I said. I've already retained counsel. Her name is Victoria. Something in him buckled at that, at the realization I was 3 moves ahead and not coming back to the script he wrote. He put a hand on his mother's elbow and pulled open the door. When it closed, the apartment exhaled. The lamp threw its triangle like a spell I had chosen and could choose again. War is noisy. Strategy hums. On Sunday, I labeled a folder, Separation, Rowan and Fedit, date cease, times, receipts, an ark built for a flood I didn't cause. Screen recordings of the HR portal confirmation. A PDF of the credit card deactivation email. A note documenting the $4,000 left in the joint account. Time-stamped 10:41 a.m. Boring is admissible. By noon, Caleb texted from a number he rarely used, the performance line. Caleb, we don't have to be cold. This is just a reset. Me. A reset with separate finances, housing, and insurance is a separation. I'm treating it as such. 3 dots vanish, 3 dots again. Caleb, you're overreacting. We said trial. Trials don't involve cutting people off. Me. Trials measure outcomes. They have controls. This is me establishing them. He pivoted to memories, which is what people do when the present is uncooperative. Photos of us on a lake. 2 tickets to a band we pretended to like because the couple we went with was painfully in love. I looked until nostalgia turned back into data. I paid for both. At 4:18 p.m., Janice called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a scolding lullaby. He's under stress, Rowan. He needs compassion, not punishment. The word creaked under its burden of expectation. Victoria emailed. Subject: Today's actions. Crisp bullet points thanking me for precision, reminding me, no editorializing in text, no threats, no fights. Silence is underrated, she wrote. Use it liberally. Monday, I went to work, because work didn't ask me to reinvent myself every third month. My team lead peered over my monitor. You okay? Yes, I said. Not a lie. Okay is not happy, but it's not drowning. At lunch, I walked the block and bought a notebook with a black linen cover. On the first page, I wrote, June 15th, separation date per council. Joint account buffer, 4,000. New account plus routing confirmed. HR status updated. Dependent coverage ends June 30th. Cobra mailing in 10 business days. Supplementary card deactivated. Assumed 7,009 balance. A life can be both spreadsheet and ache. The ache is quieter when the spreadsheet is clean. That evening, he tried a new argument. Caleb, we promised not to blindside each other. This is blindsiding. Me. I told you the morning you left that I'd start the formal process. You asked for distance. I'm honoring it. Caleb, you're punishing me for wanting joy. I looked at the message for a long time. When the reply came, it was small and unadorned. Me. I prefer truth. Silence again, the kind that counts. On Wednesday, the tremor hit exactly where Victoria predicted. Caleb, my card got declined again. I was buying basics. Socks. Me. Use the debit card. Caleb, I don't have it, you have it. I pictured the envelope in our junk drawer labeled backup plastics. I had not gone into that drawer since he left. Me. You moved out with a bag packed in 10 minutes. Some logistics require more than that. No response. A minute later, a bank alert pinged my phone. $391.82 withdrawn from an ATM near a boutique gym. The joint account. I had left the pin taped under the tray because I am not the kind of person who weaponizes inconvenience. At 8:02 p.m., the doorbell rang again. Not Janice. Ethan, the friend whose apartment had been advertised as Caleb's launch pad, stood on my welcome mat, cradling a cardboard box, sheepish. Hi, Rowan. Hi. I didn't know if I should bring this to you or toss it, and tossing felt wrong. He held out the box. Inside, like a little altar to a second adolescence, rested 2 monogrammed towels, a pair of $200 sneakers, and a small pouch bearing a wellness brand's name in silver foil. Karina, embossed on a square gift card tucked into the pouch, loomed like a watermark. I didn't read anything, Ethan said quickly. I saw the name and felt suddenly aware of gravity. Thank you, I said, for the gravity. He shifted. He says it's just a break, that you went nuclear. Is that what he calls telling the truth now? Ethan winced. He's not a villain, Rowan. Neither am I. He nodded. If you need a witness for anything, I keep my receipts. He left, relief falling off him like a coat. I carried the box to the dining table and set each item down as if I were staging a photo for an exhibit titled The Myth of Innocent Proximity. I did not touch the card. I took a picture for the folder. Thursday dawned with a cleanness that felt like insult. Sun on glass, coffee that tasted like control. I had a 9:30 strategy call and a 1-hole compliance review. At 12:11, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. This is Brett Mawson, attorney for Mr. Ellington. A voice thick with artificial pity. We received notice of some precipitous actions you've taken. Financial restrictions, insurance tampering. Our client is deeply concerned. Your client asked for a separation, I said. I am treating it as one. We'll be sending a letter this afternoon. It would be best for everyone if you reconsidered the, punitive measures. Please correspond with my counsel, I said. Her name is Victoria Hale. He hesitated, recalibrating the angle of attack. Of course. For the record, Ms. Ellington, trials are intended to facilitate reconciliation. There's a way to do this with dignity. Then I suggest your client start. I sent Victoria a brief summary. She replied within minutes. Perfect. No more phone engagement. Direct them to me. Expect their letter to be loud. Ours will be quiet. Beneath that, P.S. If you see any names, cards, or packages that concern you, photograph and log. Do not confront. That afternoon, while the building hummed with people arguing about fonts, I opened my front door to retrieve a package and found a padded envelope wedged awkwardly between the planters. The return address was a wellness studio I'd never visited. Inside, a bottle of supplements, a silk sleep mask, and a handwritten note in looping, careful script. So proud of you. You're choosing yourself. K. Not Karina then. K, like intimacy, had a trademark. I took a picture of everything. I placed the items back in the envelope and sealed them with packing tape. Not as evidence, yet, but as boundary. When the letter from Brett's office finally arrived by email at 4:38 p.m., it was every inch the performance Victoria promised. I skimmed it once and then again, watching language try to substitute itself for fact. I was controlling and withholding, financially abusive. I had recklessly terminated essential health coverage to harm a vulnerable spouse. I had humiliated him by publicly canceling his card. It demanded immediate reinstatement of his supplementary credit privileges, continued full coverage of all expenses, payment of his legal fees, and an open-ended spousal support arrangement that would have made Janice proud. I forwarded it to Victoria without comment. She called. You okay? Yes. Good. I'll craft our response. Calm. Documented. I'll also prepare a draft motion for discovery. Dissipation of marital assets. I'll need your authorization for a private investigator if the facts point the way I think they do. Authorized, I said, surprising myself with how little the word cost. Then for the next few days, you live your life. No reactions. If he texts provocations, archive. If he calls, don't pick up. We'll speak when the draft is ready. After we hung up, I sat at the table, my phone face down, my hands flat. The apartment didn't know how to comfort me. It only knew how to reflect. 2 toothbrushes still in the holder, his jacket on the back of a chair from a night in March when we were still playing house in good faith. At 7:26 p.m., my screen lit with a name I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When it transcribed, my breath hitched. Hi, Rowan, this is Karina. I know this is awkward, but I think you and I should talk. Woman to woman. There are things Caleb won't tell you that call me. Her voice was warm honey over a blade. I didn't call. I dragged the audio into the folder and labeled it Karina, VM, 7:26 p.m. Then I wrote in my notebook, no contact, counsel only. I drew a box around it twice. Outside, the city's windows went gold, then gray. I washed the mugs. I chose the ugly pajamas I loved. I set the Cobra date on the calendar, not as a threat, but as a fact. War is noisy. Strategy hums. Grief, it turns out, hums too. Like a generator, keeping the lights on while the grid reconfigures. Somewhere across town, a woman rehearsed a speech she'd never deliver if deposition became real. Somewhere closer, a man practiced being the hero of his own story a little longer. I closed my notebook and let the apartment become what it had always been underneath our posing. Shelter. Victoria's email pinged at 9:02 p.m. Draft ready tomorrow. PI on standby. Sleep. I turned off the lamp. The triangle faded from the rug. The dark was not empty. It was a room I'd finally entered. Victoria's response letter went out on Friday morning. It was immaculate. Calm where theirs was chaotic. Clinical where theirs was dramatic. She dismantled each accusation with documented evidence. Timestamps, balances, HR confirmations. Her tone was surgical. My client acted transparently and in accordance with counsel following her spouse's voluntary separation. She closed with a single devastating line. We are now proceeding with discovery related to potential dissipation of marital assets. That line was a quiet detonation. By Monday, the tremors reached Caleb. He called 3 times from a blocked number. I didn't answer. At 10:03 a.m., I got a text instead. Caleb. A PI? Seriously? You've lost it. Me. Discovery requires documentation. Caleb. You're embarrassing yourself. Me. Then stop supplying material. No reply. The private investigator's name was Daniel Reese, a former cop with a voice like gravel and the patience of a statue. He didn't ask about heartbreak. He asked about patterns. Where does he work out? What car does he drive? Who's the woman? Karina, I said. He calls her his spiritual anchor. Daniel just grunted. Anchors sink things too. He asked for a week. He only needed 3 days. On Wednesday at 5:41 p.m., a secure email arrived. Subject, Field report, Ellington case. I sat at my kitchen table, every muscle in my body braced for impact. Inside, 8 photographs, time-stamped, location tagged. Caleb's car outside a mid-rise condo in Silver Lake. Him carrying takeout, 2 bags. Her, in athleisure, greeting him at the door with a kiss that wasn't tentative. Another shot, the same 2 at breakfast on her balcony, his hand curved around her wrist. A final image, Karina's arm, hand adorned with the thin gold bracelet I'd bought him last Christmas. The report's closing paragraph was simple. Subject, an unidentified female engaged in affectionate contact over multiple evenings. Overnight stays observed. Likely cohabitation pattern developing. I exhaled once, then clicked forward, Victoria. Her reply came 5 minutes later. Excellent. We'll move to file discovery and subpoena her records. This will be decisive. Do not reach out. Thursday, I went through motions. Work, emails, a performance review. Every sound in the office, the printer, the hum of the fluorescent lights, felt too loud. At 4:12 p.m., Janice called again. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Rowan, I've tried to stay out of this, but Caleb's beside himself, she began. He says you're spying on him. That's not who you are. Maybe not, I said evenly. Maybe this is who I became while cleaning up the life you both treated like a toy room. That's cruel, she snapped. He's trying to find peace. With Karina? Silence. She's a mentor, Janice said finally, voice brittle. Then she should mentor him on honesty, I said. By Friday, Victoria had filed the motion. She attached Daniel's report and the photos as exhibits. We requested financial records from Karina, plus a subpoena for her communications with Caleb. We also included the text from Karina's studio, the supplements, the note, the K signature. Everything was methodical, irrefutable. The storm broke 3 days later. I was in a meeting when my phone lit up. Blocked call, 4:16 p.m. Voicemail transcribed itself mid-screen. Rowan, it's Caleb. You can't do this. You're dragging innocent people into your meltdown. Karina's terrified. She's threatening to quit her job. I never cheated. This is character assassination. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I sent it to Victoria, who replied, Perfect. That message undermines his own claim. Keep it. On Wednesday night, someone knocked on my door. Not the pounding of anger. 2 sharp, uncertain taps. When I opened it, Karina stood there. She looked smaller than her photos, makeup washed off, shoulders curled inward like apology. Hi, she said. I shouldn't be here, but Caleb said, I can't discuss ongoing legal matters, I interrupted gently. She nodded too quickly. I know. He's not who you think he is either. I think he's exactly who I think he is. Tears pricked her eyes. He told me you 2 were done long before June. He said you agreed. Then he won't mind confirming that under oath. The sentence landed like a gavel. Her throat worked. Under oath? Yes, you'll be subpoenaed. It's standard. Her composure fractured. I can't. My studio, my reputation. I suggest you talk to your attorney. I closed the door softly. Through the wood, I heard one thin sob, then the retreat of soft footsteps. Friday morning, Victoria called, her voice laced with satisfaction. Karina's lawyer reached out. She wants to negotiate an affidavit in exchange for being dropped from discovery. What does that mean? It means she's going to burn your husband to the ground to save herself. By the following Tuesday, the affidavit was signed and notarized. Karina admitted the relationship began months before Caleb moved out, funded by marital money. Trips, dinners, gifts. Total, over $15,000. Victoria filed it immediately. When Caleb's lawyer saw the evidence, his bluster evaporated. He called Victoria personally, tone subdued. There's no need to escalate. Perhaps both parties can find closure privately. Victoria's reply was an arctic smile in verbal form. Closure follows consequence. That night, Caleb texted again, long, frantic paragraphs oscillating between fury and nostalgia. Caleb, you're destroying everything we built. You'll regret this. I loved you once. Me. Then you should have protected what you loved. He didn't answer. The red receipt blinked twice and went still. By Saturday morning, the war was over in practice, even if the paperwork would take months. Karina's statement had gutted his credibility. The dissipation claim ensured restitution. Victoria summarized the next steps in an email titled Final Strategy Settlement. Sell the marital home, split equity, 50-50. Deduct $15,000 from his share for proven dissipation. Minimal rehabilitative alimony for 2 years due to his misconduct. Fair, clean, over. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the floor of the half-empty living room. The air felt lighter without performance clogging it. On the table sat my notebook, the one that started with June 15th. I added one final line beneath the rest. July 22nd, truth filed, outcome pending. Then, almost involuntarily, I whispered it aloud. Not a prayer, a verification. Done. The same word that began all of it. Only this time, it didn't echo. It settled. Final hearings rarely look like justice. They look like paperwork and fatigue. 8 months after Caleb first said he needed space, we sat at opposite ends of a long walnut table in mediation, a stack of documents between us like a wall we'd both built brick by brick. He wore a navy suit that didn't quite fit anymore, his tie slightly off-center. Karina wasn't there. She had already vanished from the story once her affidavit was signed and notarized, her name reduced to a citation in black ink. Victoria sat beside me, serene as ever. We accept the proposed division, she said, sliding the final settlement across. Caleb's lawyer nodded. My client concurs. The clerk confirmed signatures, timestamps, and recorded the date. And just like that, 15 years dissolved into paper dust. The numbers were as unromantic as truth. The house, sold. Equity split 50-50, minus $15,000, transferred back to me for dissipation. Alimony, 2 years, minimal, enough for him to rebuild. Savings and investments divided per statute. Health insurance, his responsibility. Victoria called it a surgical extraction. Caleb called it heartless. I called it fair. He broke the silence as we stood to leave. So that's it? He asked. No goodbye? No reflection on what we were? I met his eyes. Reflection was your hobby. Reality was mine. He flinched, just slightly. You've changed. Yes, I said. That was the point. In the weeks that followed, the noise drained from my life. The calls stopped. The pitying messages from his mother dwindled into silence. When the last automatic payment cleared and the joint account officially closed, I bought myself a plant for the windowsill. Something green, stubborn, alive. I moved into a smaller condo on the east side, 1 bedroom, high ceilings, light that filtered through sheer curtains like grace. The first night I slept there, I noticed how quiet the air was. No drawers opening in another room, no phone glow bleeding through the dark. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the small, satisfied sigh of freedom. Healing wasn't cinematic, it was logistical. Canceling old auto renewals, learning how to cook for one without apology. Therapy, every Thursday at 5. Dr. Alston, a woman with sharp eyes and soft hands, taught me that grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's methodical, a checklist with feelings hiding between the lines. Do you miss him? She asked once. Sometimes, I said, but I think I miss the idea of not worrying more than I miss him. She smiled. That's called peace. Months later, an email from Victoria arrived out of the blue. Subject, case closed. Inside, a single sentence. Judgment entered and filed. You're free. Attached was the official decree, stamped and signed. It looked ordinary. It was everything. I celebrated by doing something small, hiking alone. It was a trail we'd once driven past but never attempted because the incline looked tedious. Halfway up, the city stretched beneath me like a map I'd finally learned to read. At the ridge, I stopped and let the wind rush over me. It didn't sound like victory. It sounded like quiet competence, the same hum that had carried me through spreadsheets and midnight reconciliations and the cold clarity of loss. I took a picture, the horizon, a sliver of light, my hand steady in the frame. Caption: Learning the difference between stability and stagnation. A month later, gossip trickled through mutual acquaintances. Karina had left town, her studio closed for restructuring. Caleb was renting a small apartment near his mother, working part-time at a startup he'd once mocked. He posted quotes about growth and healing journeys. I didn't feel triumphant, I felt balanced. The plant on my windowsill grew wild and asymmetrical, leaning toward the light like it knew something about recovery. Every morning, I made coffee with the absurdly complex German machine I'd once been told was too much. It hissed, blinked, and produced perfection. The first sip each day was quiet and grounding, the kind of ordinary joy that doesn't need witness. Sometimes I think about the word fun, the reason he said he left. I've come to realize it was never about laughter or travel or impulse. It was about permission. He wanted permission to escape. I wanted permission to stay. And somehow, through the wreckage, I gave that to myself. The other day, while organizing digital folders, I hovered over the one labeled Separation, Rowan. For a second, my hand hesitated on the delete key. Then I opened it one last time. Receipts, emails, screenshots, the anatomy of an ending, preserved like evidence. At the bottom sat the note I'd written months ago, June 15th, separation date per council. I added one final line beneath it, March 4th, freedom date per me. I saved it, closed the file, and moved it to an archive labeled simply Lessons. That night, I stood on my balcony watching the city's lights flicker like small pulses of forgiveness. A memory surfaced, his voice saying, I wasn't fun anymore. I smiled softly. Competence doesn't need to be fun. It hums. And tonight, so did I.